Have you ever asked yourself, in a matchup of wits, who would be more intelligent, atheists or theists? Yeah, I haven't given it really any thought either, but you know who has? Got questions? One of their questions is, are atheists more intelligent than believers? And of course, the careful, nuanced, thoughtful response is, yeah, of course. Yeah, I kid. I mean, this is a very nuanced question, and I think it's a little silly to even worry about that. Of course, there are some atheists who are more intelligent than believers, and there are some believers who are more intelligent than atheists. And of course, what kind of intelligence are we talking about? Are we talking about just knowing stuff, or ability to learn stuff, or emotional intelligence? There's so much stuff out there. I'm just wondering, what has Got Questions got in mind? And of course, by believers, Got Questions means whatever narrow branch of Christianity they espouse. And that's it. Everybody else can just, literally go to hell. Let's get going. For what it's worth, I don't like to make sweeping generalizations about groups like this. Really smart people can believe dumb things for a variety of reasons. Maybe I believe some dumb things, who knows, and I think I'm kind of smart. Maybe we'll get into the details of this as we read the page, but my short answer is no. Atheists are not more intelligent than believers. Some individuals might be, but we can't just lump everybody in a group like they're all some monolith. So anyway, this particular Got Questions page, I just have to wonder, who is it for? What is the impetus for it? Are believers out there, out and about in the world, and then they encounter some atheist and get concerned about their intelligence? Did Got Questions get concerned about its intelligence as it was out and about in the world? Does Got Questions think that the presumed intelligence of atheists will persuade believers to leave the faith, stop tithing, buying Christian merch, and stop coming to Got Questions for their answers? Maybe that's their real worry. They're worried about not getting the clicks. Yeah, it's all a mystery. Or actually not, because I can tell you, having read the entire page, it's about convincing believers that they don't need any of that there book learning. They just need Bible and faith. Yeah, so there's the blibbity blab. Let's start this page. What is implicit in this question is that many atheists make public claims that they are the intelligentsia of society and that they are too intelligent for any sort of belief in religion. Okay, before we go on, I just have to wonder, who are these many atheists making public claims about being the intelligentsia of society? That link on atheists only leads to a page about what atheism is, who atheists are. That's it. It doesn't lead to anybody claiming to be the intelligentsia of society. I don't see this anywhere. There are so many Christians in the media, in places of power, all over the place, declaring that Christianity, at least in my culture, is the way to go. So where are these atheists? Who are these atheists? Got questions? I got questions. But returning to the text, it is true that many atheists are highly intelligent. Well, thank you, Got Questions. And many are highly educated. Parens intelligence and educational attainment not being synonymous, which is true. They're not. They're very smart people who did not get an education. They've got a kind of practical smartness about them. And, by the way, there are different kinds of intelligence. There are people that are emotionally intelligent, things like that. But okay, I can agree on that. Intelligence and education are different. But are atheists correct in claiming that they are smarter than those who believe in God? I just wonder, who are these people? I'm wondering here if Got Questions isn't confused about the fact that atheists just say, I don't accept your claims, and Christians say, like, oh my gosh, that atheist is saying that they're smarter than me. But please, link out to somebody, show me, not just some random edgelord that is on X spewing Nazi shit, but like a broader movement of atheists saying that they are smarter than those who believe in God. I'm sure you can find the random person here or there that says that they're smarter than other people, but just broadly, I don't see this happening. In fact, I see most atheists being very careful to say that Christians are smart, and a lot of atheists came out of Christianity. So anyway, I do feel like this particular paragraph is an instance of the website doth protest too much. This concern that actually atheists feel superior, but we don't. We actually think we're all on the same level, and there are different reasons for why we've accepted the beliefs that we have. So there we have it. There's some impression that atheists are out in the world saying they're smarter than believers, and this is the impetus for this particular webpage. Let's keep going. Atheist Richard Dawkins. Oh, please, got questions? Name another atheist. Just any other atheist. It's always Richard Dawkins. Please, Christians, believers of any kind, name another atheist. Say something besides Richard Dawkins. Like, we don't care. But I don't know. I guess this works for Christians. I guess that's why this always comes up. Because at the end of the day, this website is not for us. It's not for atheists. It's for Christians. So anyway, atheist Richard Dawkins is more intelligent than many believers in certain areas, especially biology. He has achieved a higher educational level than many as well. Does this mean he is therefore more qualified to know if God actually exists? Let's just stop on this sentence for a minute. In my estimation, you do not have to be intelligent to make a determination about whether God actually exists or not, especially the formulation of a lot of Christians where God wants some personal relationship with us. So it doesn't matter how smart you are or how much education you have, anybody should be able to look around and decide this for themselves. What I will say, though, is that if your evidence for God is based in science, like why is there something rather than nothing, or why are we conscious, or how did life get started, or that kind of thing, and your answer is simply God explains everything, Genesis is your explanation, that's your problem. There are scientific explanations for these things. So if an atheist comes back and says, to start off a universe, this is the theory, we don't need a God to do it, God is not a necessary element of this, that might be your problem and why you feel inferior. The same for all of these things, like why we have logic and why things exist and all that. We have scientific explanations. And if you want an answer like that, you go to science. But hopefully you would have some other kind of evidence for why God exists and not just science, right? Of course not. Let's return to the reading, which starts, of course not. So yeah, of course it doesn't make Richard Dawkins more qualified to know if God exists. Anybody can figure out if God exists. You can be the dumbest thing and make a determination. Okay, so the problem atheists have is not their level of intelligence, it is their struggle with sin. Of course, we just want to sin. It always comes down to that, right? They have traded away the knowledge of God for the knowledge of this world. This emphasis on atheists just wanting to sin, I think what is really going on here is that they are trying to telegraph to Christians that they are the ones that are doing the difficult thing by being a Christian, that they are giving up something, that they are suffering on behalf of a greater cause, and atheists are just giving in to every whim, which obviously is not true. But sin is one of those things that you can equivocate on. Like, what is the struggle with sin? I would argue that I don't do anything better or worse than any Christian. I don't struggle with sin. I just try to live a good life. That's just me. The last thing I'll say on this particular paragraph is Got Questions is drawing a distinction between the religious knowledge or spiritual knowledge or whatever you want to call that, and the knowledge of the world as being bad. And there shouldn't be a dichotomy there. I mean, if you're a Christian, you can still learn the knowledge of this world. And thankfully, most Christians actually do. You have to know certain things about this world just to survive in it. So it seems silly to put these in like head to head as if there's a competition. But explore more of your knowledge of God and figure out if that's actually a valid thing or not. That's just my thought on that. But there shouldn't be a dichotomy here, is my main point. So let's move on. The book of Proverbs is an entire book about how to be wise. That's not what I would say about the book of Proverbs. It's just a bunch of sayings they collected, and sometimes the same saying is like there more than once. It's like in a slightly different form, but whatever. Solomon begins the opening section of this book by identifying the first step to being a wise person. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Okay, whatever. Solomon clearly says that for a person to truly gain knowledge, he must first acknowledge his need and possess reverence for the one true God. If a person is to gain wisdom, he must first be in a right relationship with God. The atheist starts in the wrong place and heads in the wrong direction. I guess, like, that's just your opinion, man. Like, demonstrate that this one true God exists at all. Demonstrate that Solomon knew what the fuck he was talking about. I mean, I know the book says he was wise, but, like, I don't know. The book says it, so it's true, I guess. I don't know. So I guess we're just in a bit of a presupposition land here. We're presupposing that God exists, and then we're going from there. We're taking the book at its word that it knows what it's talking about. And I don't think that's particularly smart, wise, intelligent, or any other of those clever words. Let's go on. Solomon finishes Proverbs 1:7 this way, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. I don't know that that's very controversial. I mean, they're fools. You've called them fools. So a wise person fears God. He has a respect for who God is and willingly submits to his authority. However, a fool despises wisdom. A foolish person does not acknowledge God's authority over his life. Therefore, he shuts himself off to truly gaining wisdom. Like I said, demonstrate that this God exists. Demonstrate that this book has truth in it. You know what else Proverbs says? Let's go look at some other Proverbs. Proverbs 20:26. A wise king winnows out the wicked. He drives the threshing wheel over them. I'm not even sure I understand what that means, but it sounds kind of Machiavellian to me. Or Proverbs 20:29. The glory of young men is their strength. Gray hair, the splendor of the old. Like, okay, that just sounds like some old person wanting to say, like, it's not that bad being old, but I don't know. Or how about Proverbs 20:30? Blows and wounds scrub away evil, and beatings purge the inmost being. That's a little violent. I think that you could purge the inmost being in other ways without being violent. Or how about Proverbs 14:10? Each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one else can share its joy. I don't think that's right. I think we can share each other's joy. That's why we have mouths. We can talk. Or how about Proverbs 14:11? The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. Like, why are you living in a tent? If you're so smart, why don't you live in a house? I don't know. Or Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. You know what? I think all ways lead to death, whether they're right, wrong, stupid, believing, or unbelieving. I think death is the end. I don't know. It's not all that wise. It's not a great book. A lot of it's silly. I mean, there's some good stuff in there. Don't get me wrong. It's not like all terrible. But, I wouldn't just say like it's a book of wisdom. There's a lot of silliness in there too. Let's go back to the Got Questions page. An atheist can be highly intelligent and very ignorant at the same time. He can have multiple academic degrees and yet be, by the Bible's definition, a fool. Yeah, because we care about the Bible's definition, right? That's really the important thing. And what we have in this whole page is like just a long-winded way of saying, yeah, atheists might be smarter, but they're not spiritual. Moving on. Education is no measure of intelligence, and intelligence is no measure of spiritual condition. I mean, I think that goes without saying, and I think we've already talked about education versus intelligence, but why not? You got to pat out the page, right? A man of the humblest intellect who nevertheless believes God's promise is wise in what matters most. Something from Psalm we don't care about. There is a big difference between being intelligent enough to succeed in academia and being wise for salvation. And another quote from Corinthians. All I have to say is, like, again, this seems like a lot of words to say. Atheists actually are smarter than Christians, but Christians are spiritual, and it's smart to be spiritual, in Got Questions mind anyway. Let's go to the next paragraph. The intelligence of this world is temporary and can only go so far. I mean, again, seems to go without saying. But the wisdom that comes from God is eternal and higher than the world's intelligence. See James. All right, let's go look at this James and see what's going on here. Two kinds of wisdom. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. Citation needed. I don't know if there's any spiritual or demonic or anything. Okay, I'm digressing. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Well, I wish somebody would tell some preachers that because I'm not sure that they are peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy, impartial, and sincere. I don't know. I don't think that this applies to a lot of people who follow the Jesus. But above all, this isn't about being intelligent. I mean, it talks about wisdom, and wisdom is different from intelligence, but this whole James thing is actually about how to behave better. And that's different from intelligence. I mean, you could use intelligence and wisdom to learn how to become better people. I don't know why I wasted my time on this. Oh, wait, I do know why. Because we needed to pad out this intelligence stuff with a verse that seemed like it was talking about this when it really, really wasn't. But let's get back into it. The atheist who does not have the Spirit of God cannot discern spiritual truth and might naturally consider those who live by faith to be foolish, irrational, or less intelligent. I love this. Does not have the Spirit of God. Like, please tell me how you would know if you had the Spirit of God and cannot discern spiritual truth. What is spiritual truth? Can you tell me what is spiritual truth? I frankly don't know what spiritual means. I hear people use it a lot, and sometimes I feel like what they actually mean is something to do with their emotions and feeling connected to the universe and other people and all that, And then we have this verse from Corinthians. We're going to skip it because I'm done wasting my time on scriptures. Let's go forward. The problem is not that the atheist does not see enough evidence for God. The problem is that sin has so darkened his heart and mind that he refuses to accept the evidence right in front of him. It's so funny how often it comes back to you just want to sin. And besides being repetitive, because Got Questions has already mentioned this in a previous paragraph, it's also just totally unrelated to intelligence at all. I guess this has to keep coming up because we need to make sure that Christians understand that it's actually better to be stupid but not sinful and not want to sin, whereas atheists might be smart, but they just want to sin. They want to do bad things or whatever you think sin is. Oh, and we got a part about sin, so let's keep going. The Bible teaches that sin is not just actions that go against God's will, but is the natural condition of every person due to the curse of Adam. We come into this world as sinners. So if it's just the natural condition, what can we do about it? Isn't that something that God could help us out with? And by the way, I was baptized. Supposedly that took away original sin, but I don't know. I guess I lost it when I lost my faith. I don't know. But again, this sin thing has nothing to do with intelligence. This whole paragraph ends up, one of the effects of sin is spiritual blindness. I don't know what spiritual blindness is. I guess that Got Questions just wants its Christians to think that they have the spiritual sightedness and they don't want to lose that. They don't want to become an atheist and lose this special thing that God has given them and go back to sinning or wanting to sin or whatever it is that Got Questions thinks that is going on. I also find it kind of interesting that Got Questions seem to presume that atheists don't know anything about Christianity, or we don't understand the concepts, the tenets of the religion. And why this is funny is a lot of atheists come out of religion, and in the West, it tends to be some version of Christianity. And for those people who did come out of some kind of non-religious background, it's all around us. Again, where I'm at, it's Christianity all the time. You hear it everywhere. But the way Got Questions is talking here, it's like atheists or some other species that's being studied. And maybe Christians that go to a page like Got Questions don't know any atheists. Maybe there are atheists around them, but they're not aware that they're atheists. So this is just an abstract notion. And Got Questions can use this abstraction to say, you don't want to be like that other group. And they can imagine whatever demonic thing they want to imagine, basically. It's an easy scare tactic, I guess, is what I'm thinking. So let's get back into it. Atheists can be intelligent by the world's standards, and they may proclaim their intelligence far and wide, but they are actually fools because they miss the most important fact of life. They are created by a sovereign God who lays claim to their lives. Paul says that the problem with sinful mankind is not that God has not revealed himself clearly enough, but that men suppress the truth. Yeah, we know the whole Roman shtick. We don't have to read it. But once again, we have these loudmouth atheists going around saying how smart they are and smarter than theists, and I just want to know who they are. I think that they live in your head. But I'll tell you what I hear here is you do think that atheists are smarter than Christians, but you're trying to tell Christians that it is better to be dumb and believe in God. That's what I hear here. Let's keep going. Atheists who claim to be more intelligent than believers in Christ are actually saying they do not want to believe in God. Sinful people love their sin, and we have another verse. So once again, we have this made-up atheist. I don't know who this atheist is. I don't claim to be more intelligent than believers. I don't think there is sufficient evidence to warrant belief in God, so I don't believe in God. And I think actually a lot of believers believe for emotional reasons and not because there's great evidence. But this is separate from their intelligence. They can be very smart and smarter than me in lots of ways. So this is like just this straw atheist that you're fighting against, and it's silly. And the real point is to scare Christians into saying, like, you don't want to be that smart. You don't want to be smart because you'll want to sin or something. I don't know. Let's round this out. Christianity is a reasonable faith. Oh, can we all just laugh out loud at that all day long? One that is based on historical facts and a plethora of evidence, and I don't see any hyperlinks on this page to demonstrate that, but I'm guessing it's just whatever you want to be true. We can just say things. We don't need to link out. We don't need to demonstrate that. All right. Christians do not fear their faith being analyzed and critiqued and cross-examined by sincere seekers of truth. Yeah, citation needed. In fact, they welcome such investigation. Do they? Do they, though? Atheists can advance the haughty claim that they alone possess intelligence. Yeah, once again with the straw atheist who's haughty and, arrogant and all that. But there are many Christian apologists with credentials rivaling any atheists who are quite willing to counter the claims of atheism and engage in constructive debate over the truth claims of the Bible. I love this. Now, all of a sudden, the credentials are really super important, even though before we were like, nah, it doesn't really matter if you have education or not. Yeah, this all looks totally legit. And let's see, who are those Christian apologists we might be talking about? That links out to people like Norman Geisler, Josh McDowell, William Lane Craig, Lee Strobel, and Daniel B. Wallace. Wonderful stuff there. So in the end, what did we learn from the Got Questions question, are atheists more intelligent than believers? This is what I heard. Yes, atheists are more intelligent. They know more stuff about the world. They study more stuff. They get credentials and all that kind of stuff. But you don't want to be like them because they're a bunch of sinners that just want to sin and do some sinning stuff. And it was a lot of Bible verses and a lot of blah, 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 blibbity blab to get to that point. And here's what I think. Atheists are not more intelligent than believers. There are plenty of intelligent believers. Belief is separate from intelligence. I think that what I'm saying is quite trivial and banal and really should not need to be said. But I understand why Got Questions does this. What they're trying to do is show that even though all of this science and knowledge that's out in the world does not back up their belief in God, they want to say we need to cling to our belief in God. We presuppose God, we presuppose the truth of the Bible, and we go from there. And all that knowledge out in the world is dangerous, and it will lead you to sin, and God will hate you, and he'll put you in a pit of fire. Well, that's what I have for you from Got Questions. What struck you? I would be very interested to hear what you think about this Got Questions question. Put it in the comments below. And while you're down there, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuffing. Pour out your libations to Algorithma and his consort Algorithma. May they bless you with wonderful YouTube recommendations and not mediocre and shitty YouTube recommendations, because there is a lot of shitty and terrible out in the YouTubes and the TikToks of this world. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. Here are my cute kitties thanking you for the kibble because they think you're getting me kibble. They think the page is called Buy Me Some Kibble. I don't want the kibble kitties, that's for you. And on the topic of buy me a coffee, thank you to everybody who has bought me a coffee. It is so appreciated. I am very touched by all of your generosity, and I have to tell you, I do use most of that money for coffee. A couple people have specified, buy the kitties some kibble. So, they got some kibble in there too. But, don't tell my kitties I buy coffee. That's it for me today. I am not sure what's coming up next, but it's going to be stupid. Bye for now.